This episode of The Benefit Whisper is brought to you by Route 3 Insurance and Financial Services, where smarter benefits begin. If you're tired of rising healthcare costs and opaque insurance contracts, Route 3 is here to help you take control. They specialize in transparent, employer-driven benefit strategies that protect your people and your bottom line. Ready to break away from the status quo? Visit www.fixmybenefitsnow.com and discover how Route 3 can help you build a plan that actually works for your team and for your budget. Hi, Benjamin, and good afternoon. This is a sort of an unscheduled podcast, and I've been asked by a few people in Tennessee to talk about proposed legislation, SB 2040 and House Bill 1959. Now, you are, and I'll let you introduce yourself, but you're an independent pharmacist. Why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so I run the oldest pharmacy in Salt Lake City, Jolley's Compounding Pharmacy here in Utah. And I also do advocacy work related to monopoly power with the American Economic Liberties Project. I'm a senior fellow for healthcare policy there.
Okay. Excellent. Great. So what can you tell us about these bills? And are you in favor? Are you opposed?
Sure. So SB 2040 and its companion legislation in the House of Tennessee are functionally a duplicate of Arkansas Act 624 that passed last year. The mechanism is slightly different, but the goal of the policy is the same, which is to say pharmacy benefit managers who set reimbursements to pharmacies, who control pharmacy networks, and who control formularies should not be able to own pharmacies.
Makes sense.
This is, to me, extremely common sense legislation. It's not
Mhm.
I don't think it should be controversial to anybody. In the state of Texas, there's similar law in place that says that auto insurers cannot own auto body shops. It's
Okay.
the same concept. That's from like 20 years ago.
Right.
So the principle that you as an insurer should not be able to own the provider is common sense. It makes sense to most people intuitively. But to underline the necessity of this legislation, the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance did an audit of all of the major PBMs over the last couple of months. They looked at data from 2024, and they found that all of the PBMs, but the one that I'm particularly interested in is CVS Caremark. That's the one that I've actually read. Basically, thumbed their nose at the State Department and the state's laws. The state before 2024 passed laws that stated that you cannot pay affiliate pharmacies more than independent pharmacies. You have to pay
Mhm.
independent pharmacies at least their cost. You can't do spread pricing. And the audit found that they did all of these things.
Wow.
And in the most extreme case of paying an affiliate more than an independent pharmacy, they found that CVS Caremark paid CVS Pharmacy 16,000% more for Sensipar than an independent pharmacy.
That. Wow.
Correct. Yes.
So, wow, that's a lot. So they paid, in fact, they paid their own pharmacies more than independent pharmacies. So that would be, in my opinion, that would be damaging to independent pharmacies. And it's kind of like um, what do you call it? The fox guarding the hen house. If I'm not,
Oh,
if I'm
absolutely.
reading this correctly.
I mean, so just for context here, the drug in question is a medication called Sensipar,
Okay.
and the data show that CVS reimbursed independent pharmacies $57 and reimbursed CVS pharmacies $9,000 for the same quantity of medication.
Wow.
That's the most extreme example, but the general principle of we pay ourselves more than our competitors in violation of Tennessee law was throughout this audit. They found a lot of examples of this.
Okay. So this is affecting the taxpayers of Tennessee then, isn't it? Because they're in essence paying for this plan.
Yeah. Anyone who receives prescription medications, anyone who receives insurance benefits is presumably paying more money as a result of this scheme, right?
Mhm.
That's almost $9,000 of excess reimbursement for a drug with no real rationale other than because we can. And so that kind of behavior would presumably increase premiums for people who are funding that. It increases copayments for patients who are going to that pharmacy unless there's a preferential copay
Mhm.
treatment to the affiliated pharmacy.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, taxpayers are going to bear the cost, presuming that there's any tax funded programs that were affected here. I don't know that that's the case. Tennessee has a single PBM for their Medicaid. And so I don't think that CVS is implicated there. But um, but yeah, I mean, it's an egregious abuse of power. CVS has been blowing up the news in Tennessee, going to any um, newspaper, any TV channel that will listen, saying, "Hey, the state wants to shut down 134 pharmacies in Tennessee," which are CVS's own pharmacies. That's
Okay.
what they're saying, right?
Right, right.
Is don't shut down our pharmacies, which is it's an interesting statement. It's saying if we can't pay ourselves 60x what we pay our competitors, we're going to take our pills and go home and we're going to close all of the pharmacies. We're not going to sell them. We're not going to divest the pharmacy entity. We're going to close all of these pharmacies and fire all of the employees. That is a choice that they are making. It sounds really scary, but like that is not the only option here, right? That
Right.
they absolutely could sell the pharmacies. That they could split their company in two. They could say, okay, the pharmacy
Huh?
is now a separate company, right? Um, Obviously, they don't want to do that because being able to pay yourself $9,000 for what you pay competitors $60 is a great deal.
Yeah, huge. Wow. That is huge.
But yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. It's a
Mhm.
muscular move.
Right.
As I mentioned, this is a very similar piece of legislation to Arkansas Act 624 that Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed into law last April. That bill was signed into law, but then CVS, Express Scripts, Navitus, oh, you can't do this.
We lost Benjamin. I will just hold on. I'm sure he will be back. So, Benjamin, as he said in the beginning, introducing himself, he is an independent pharmacist and his pharmacy was passed down from his family. So he is very passionate about this. And when he comes back, I'm going to ask him about his kidney donation because it's a sort of, it demonstrates how passionate he is. He is back.
My apologies, I don't know what happened there. I seem
There
to have
you
gotten.
are. Yeah. That's
Hopefully, the
got,
recording was good. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. Yeah. I will, I was talking about, how committed you are. And I said, when Benjamin comes back, we'll have to ask him about his kid.
Sure. Sure.
So, anyway, I'm glad you're back. In essence, I think what I heard you saying is that, CVS is saying that they're going to force us to shut down 134 drugstores and fire a whole bunch of people, whereas that is a choice. They could sell 134 drugstores to Rite Aid, to Walgreens, to independent pharmacists.
Right.
They could
To
sell
their
them
own staff.
to
Like
their own staff. Yeah.
the pharmacist in charge in a lot of these cases could probably just purchase the pharmacy.
Mhm.
Not in all cases. I mean, that's a substantial financial transaction, but like I could imagine a situation where the pharmacist purchases the pharmacy and CVS keeps the front end even
Mhm.
and stays as
Yeah. I mean,
the
become
realtor
in essence
even,
a
or not realtor,
franchise.
the landlord, right? I mean, there's all sorts of ways they could do this, but they're saying no, but they're forcing us to close all these pharmacies, which
Yeah.
I think is disingenuous.
Yeah, I believe it is. Now, if this drug you mentioned for $57, is that is an independent pharmacy making profit on that, or are they losing money?
No, that the $57 for that drug is actually a fairly reasonable price. It's just that they paid themselves full AWP on the drug
Wow.
of
Okay.
$9,000.
Wow. So if you could just for, just for the purpose of educating some of the representatives in Tennessee, talk really quickly about WAC, AWP, stuff like that. Just these terms
Sure.
that will come about.
Yeah. Okay, so AWP is a like suggested retail price, but it's completely separated from any sense of what drugs actually cost.
Mhm.
Sensipar just has a very high AWP, and that's presumably the basis of why they paid themselves so much is they were paying themselves the full suggested retail price when a more sane reimbursement is actually what they paid the independent pharmacies. It's, it's certainly within $20 of a reasonable price for reimbursing a pharmacy.
Wow. Okay. Is it a generic or
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
how
Sensipar's the
much?
brand name, but yeah.
Okay. So how much, for example, how much would that be on Mark Cuban's Cost Plus pharmacy?
Oh,
Do you
I'd
know?
have to look, but I would guess somewhere similar. Let's see, just for kicks here.
Hmm.
Uh,
Or
Cinecalcet.
GoodRx?
Yeah, Cinecalcet cost plus drugs.
28.40. I just looked it up.
There you go. So like yeah,
Okay.
$57 is totally a reasonable reimbursement. It's
Okay.
higher than you would pay, but like
Mhm.
if you went direct, but it's not um totally ridiculous.
Mhm.
Where and again, Mark Cuban is today's price. We're looking at prices from 2 years ago. So it could have been more expensive 2 years ago. Uh, but they paid themselves $9,000 for it, right? So it's just a little bit insulting
Mhm.
to the general populace to say, yeah, this is a fair price.
Right.
Well, I was going to say Act 624 in Arkansas. A federal judge enjoined the law, saying that it violated um, a couple of different federal laws. It conflicted with TRICARE, for example, because they banned the state board of pharmacy from issuing a pharmacy license to any pharmacy owned by a PBM. And Express Scripts owns the pharmacy that operates the TRICARE mail order program. And so, by the state saying we're not going to issue a license from Arkansas to the TRICARE mail order pharmacy that's owned by Express Scripts,
Right.
they're in a way frustrating the federal government's contract with Express Scripts. Argument there. The state has appealed that and it's still pending in court. But that's the status of the Arkansas law. There was another reason for enjoining it that I am not recalling, but I think it was the supremacy clause of the Constitution in regards to I don't remember the other reason, but I can find it. Anyway, but there is a high likelihood that this law would result in a lawsuit from the PBMs because it's a, you know, um, life or death issue for their current business model of paying themselves substantially more than competitors if they don't own a pharmacy because the state says you can't do that. Their business model as it currently stands has to evolve.
Wow. So, hmm, am I correct in saying that this is a drug that addresses kidney disease?
Correct. Yes. Cinecalcet.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in essence, and would this bill apply to just the state health plan or all employers in Tennessee?
My understanding is this is not a plan design. This is a pharmacy licensure question.
Okay. So potentially, if we understand this correctly, Benjamin, potentially any employer that has an employee with kidney disease, if this bill does not pass and they are allowed to pay 16,000% more to their own pharmacies, then every employer that has an employee is going to pay $9,000 for a pill that they can get from Mark Cuban pharmacies for about $30 and an independent pharmacy for about $57.
That they did obtain for $57 from an independent pharmacy. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. 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 So it's in essence a big business bill. Sorry. No, it's an anti-big business bill. It's a let's keep independent pharmacies in Tennessee bill.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Wow.
like it doesn't prohibit anyone outside of Tennessee from owning a pharmacy. It simply prohibits people who own a pharmacy and a PBM from
Mhm.
owning a pharmacy in Tennessee.
Mhm.
Right. Um, so it doesn't stop Walgreens. It doesn't stop Walmart. It does affect Costco, who owns a significant chunk of Navitus. It does affect CVS, certainly.
Mhm.
It affects United Healthcare with their Genoa Healthcare and their Optum Rx PBM. It affects Express Scripts Cigna, as they own Express Scripts Mail Order and Accredo Specialty Pharmacy, which are both licensed out of state pharmacies and who would not be allowed to continue to renew their licenses looking over the bill again after January 1st of next year, it looks like.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So this bill, SB 2040 in the Senate and House Bill 1959 in the House, as written before amendments, are good bills.
Yes,
They reduce the
absolutely.
cost of healthcare.
Yes.
And Benjamin, everybody right now is upset about the price of healthcare, as they should be. It's crazy high. It's crazy high, and PBMs are a big share of this. And the thing that I wonder about is the government has a responsibility, if I remember correctly, to chop up monopolies like they did with Microsoft. Why aren't they doing this here?
Well, that's a good question. The Federal Trade Commission, when CVS went to acquire Caremark in the 2010s, decided that it was pro-competitive,
Really? Okay.
which is a belief that you can come to if you listen to enough economists of a certain stripe, but that I absolutely do not agree with.
Right.
The other the other thing that occurs to me when I think about this is that PBM owned pharmacies are a problem not only from a like retail and like pricing perspective, but also you get other monopoly harms from their captured specialty pharmacies. Right.
Mhm.
I don't know how many times you've talked to someone who had to deal with the Credo Specialty Pharmacy or with CVS Specialty Pharmacy or Optum Rx Specialty Pharmacy. But if you go look on the Better Business Bureau's site for a Credo Specialty Pharmacy, which is Cigna's specialty pharmacy, people describe intense horror stories of not being sent their medication despite their PBM, which is usually also Express Scripts, explicitly approving it, having paid the copay, and still having to call multiple times to receive their medication. And a lot of people will describe the process of becoming a patient who needs to take a specialty therapeutic as getting a second job, which
Yeah.
is to me that's an incredible patient harm,
Yes.
and I don't think would exist if these pharmacies had to compete in the market for their volume. But because they control the PBM and the
Mhm.
pharmacy, they can force people
Right.
um, into their situation, into their ecosystem,
Mhm.
and then use that control to then say, we don't care about customer service. We're going to sell as much as we can um, to our and and we're going to make the process entirely dependent on the patient taking all of the responsibility for making sure that things go correctly, and we will outsource all of that responsibility to the patient. If they have to compete for the business, but instead of getting it by dint of being the PBM,
Mhm.
which happens a lot of times,
Right.
I think that the patient experience improves. That's my that's my sincerely held belief.
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, as Mark Cuban always rightly says, and I'm sure there are rebates involved in
For
this
sure.
$9,000 transaction, but that goes to, if part of it goes to the employer, part of it goes to potentially the TPA. So where does that potential rebate go?
I don't think this one would have a rebate. It's a generic medication,
Okay. Wow.
right? It's cinecalcet generic. I don't think it would have any rebates involved. Maybe it has rebates involved in the form of shuffling money around to meet a rebate guarantee that you overpromised,
Right.
right?
Right.
You overcharge $9,000 on Sensipar so that you can meet your rebate guarantee and say,
Right.
yep, here's an extra $1,000
Wow.
that we missed because we guaranteed you a larger rebate than we actually were able to do. Maybe, but that's some funny bookkeeping.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure it is. Yeah. And, so I'm thinking big numbers. Tennessee has about 6 million people. If, let's say, a third of them are employees, okay, and 20% of their healthcare spending is on drugs. I mean, like just one example is huge. And if somebody has this prescription, is it a monthly thing?
Typically, yes.
Okay. So 9,000 a month is $108,000 a year. If you are a small employer, let's say with 10 employees, and you get hit, and let's say you're self-insured, level funded, and if you get hit with a bill, like claims of $100,000, I mean, that's huge. That's going to affect your cost and your renewal. Small business as it is struggles to pay healthcare costs. I mean, big
Right.
business does too. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a significant amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Like where it could, instead of being a $100,000 per year drug, it could be
Mhm.
a less than $1,000 a year drug. That's a
Mhm.
very large impact, right? And again, that's the most extreme example in the audit,
Sure. Sure.
but it is representative of a general trend towards substantially overpaying their own pharmacies.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Well, listen, if somebody wants to get a hold of you to get more information, how would
Sure.
they do that?
Benjamin at apexpharmacyconsulting.com.
Okay. Excellent. And thanks again. We'll have to have you on for a regular planned episode again. It's been a while.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Benjamin.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.